When we submit a paper to any journal, it goes into many phases. In the first phase, the editorial board check it for different type of questions. For example, they check the novelty of the paper, they check the structure, and especially the language of the paper. So if everything is good and they think that this paper may be possible and this paper have a standard to publish in this journal, after that this paper is sent to reviewers. But the editorial board, usually 50% papers are rejected by the good journal and 50% papers are sent to the reviewers. So this is called a desk rejection. And when the paper is sent towards the reviewers, usually 2 or 3 reviewers are selected. They review the paper, they check the paper for different type of technicalities, languages, the structure, etc. And every journal have their own process for reviewing any paper, and some journals need 6 to 8 weeks to respond, and some journals take usually 5 to 6 or more than 5 to 6 months. So this means that this is a long wait, this is a lengthy time for which the author wait for the review. And when the reviewer respond back to the editor, and when and the editor write to the author, there are 4 options with the editor. He exactly accepted the paper in the current form. This means that no changes are needed. The paper will be published in the same format. So this rarely happened, and this is very difficult to work on the paper such like that. And the second one is the minor revision, third one is the major revision, and the fourth one is the rejection. So in the minor revision and in the major revision, comments, suggestions are sent back to the authors, and author work on these comments and respond back to the editor and the reviewers to accept the paper. So when you get a reviewer suggestions and they have revised your paper with the minor and the major revision, this means that they have given you a chance to work on that and to update your paper according to their comments and suggestions and make this paper to be published in the journal. So this doesn't mean that your paper is accepted for publications and after working on that your paper will be available online. Usually 50% papers are rejected after the first revision. So you have to take this seriously, you have to work on hard, because you have been waiting for 5, 6 or 7 months for the review process, and you have spent a lot of time on writing and handling the technicalities, and you have to think that your goal is to publish the paper in this journal. So if your goal is to publish the paper in this journal, then you have to work on that. The first thing in responding to the reviewer comments that the authors, the editors voluntarily work on your paper to improve it and to bring it to the international standards, to the journal standards, and to publish it in this journal. So you have to really thank you to the reviewers and the editors, and you have to categorically mention the thank you words and the thanks, etc., that they have worked on your paper. And after that you have to read all the comments. Maybe at the first time when you will read the comments, you will think that this is very difficult to do, or you may think that it will not be possible to do or to address it, or is it is also possible to misunderstand the reviewer comments. So you have to read it, put it in your mind, and after you have to relax. Don't start directly on responding. After that you have to read it once again, and you have to create a map in your mind that how you are going to respond to these reviewer comments. And when you think that you're exactly ready to respond to every comments, and you have created an image in your mind, and you think that now you are able to respond to the every comments, and you can think that everything is in your mind, and you will just copy all these things from your mind into the computer or into the MS Word. At that time you have to sit down, okay, and at first, if there are some comments which are coming from every reviewer or the editor, then you have to mention these comments in the overview portion. I will suggest to put the review portion, and this means that the comments or the changes which is recommended by the every author is special, and it is a major work which you have to done, and you have to do it on any cost. And if you have done many changes to your paper, for example, you have changed any figure, you have changed any table, you have added any new experimentation, or you added any new author, then you have to mention all these major things in the overview. And I will suggest to draw a column of to draw a table of 3 columns. In the first column you have to copy the same comments of the reviewer into the first column. In the second you will write the response, author's response, and in the third you have to write the author's actions. In the author response means that what changes are recommended by the author. What do you think? Is it really correct? Do you think that these things were missing? If these things were missing, you have to say thank you to the reviewer for pointing out these missings. And after that, in the action column, you have to write in detail that what you have added, how you corrected all these things, and it will be better to put the snapshot. After highlighting all these changes, you have to put the snapshot in the third column. And if you think that you are putting more snapshot into the table, and with the more snapshot figures, it will not look good, so you may respond it line by line. For example, in the first line will be reviewer comments, and the second one will be the author's response, and the third one will be the author's action. Now in this manner, you may put more images, you may put more snapshot, and it will also look better. I will also recommend to use different colors for the author's, for the reviewer's comment, for the author's response, and for the author's action. When you will use a different color, it will be attractive, and also it will be more easy to the reviewers to read or to separate all these comments. And you are also working the reviewer-centered approach. You are using the reviewer-centered approach. You are using the editor-centered approach, because you will make them easy to psychologically satisfy them to get your paper accepted for publication. And another thing which you have to note, that everything you write here should be self-explanatory. And if the snapshot is needed or any other thing is needed, then you have to clearly mention that. If these things are not self-explanatory, the reviewers will not get all these points. And because the reviewers are voluntarily working on your paper to improve your paper, and you think that somewhere they have missed something, you have done anything and they have missed something, or they have recommended some changes which is not possible, or which is not exactly matching with this context, then you have to respond very politely. This is very necessary, to respond very politely to the reviewers. For example, you can say that at this point we will not be able to investigate this point clearly. However, this is our future work and we will work on that. Exactly, if he has missed something in the paper, and all these things were mentioned in the paper, then instead of writing that the reviewer has missed all these things, or you has missed these things, I have written all these things on the page number that, you have to respond clearly that I'm sorry, I was not able to clearly mention or to clarify this idea. No, I have expanded, I restated it to clarify the idea. So this is a reviewer-centered approach. This is a very good approach to clearly specify your message. So be polite with the reviewers and be polite with the editors. And the next point is, for example, in the one bullet, in the one point, reviewers suggest 2 to 3 changes. Then I will suggest to break these comments into 3 parts. For example, the reviewers suggested 4 changes in the bullet number 4. Then you can say the 4.1. You have to write the reviewer comments, and then 4.2 and then 4.3. This will be very clear. This will also be clear to the author, to the reviewers, and also to the editor. The one complaint which usually the reviewers and editors do is that the authors not perfectly respond every comments. So if you think that some changes are not possible or they are hard to do, or at that time you are not able to do these things, or you think that these changes are not necessary to be done, then instead of leaving this point, you have to logically explain that why you are not going to explain this point, or why you are not going to do these things. So this is not ethically good to not respond to every point. You have to respond to every point, and you have to respond you have to clearly respond to every point. And if you are not able to do such like changes at that time, that you have to logically explain this. And the next thing is that when you respond to the comment, then instead of explaining too many things, instead of explaining the unnecessary things, you have to go directly to the points which the reviewer has suggested. And this will make the reviewers work easy, this will make the editor work easy, and they will easily handle all these points. So these were some tips which are necessary to respond to the reviewers and also to the editor. So if you have a minor or major revision in your paper, I will repeat again that to be polite with the reviewers, be polite with the editors. They are working to improve your paper, and they are voluntarily doing all these things. When you do and you will follow all these points, hopefully your paper will be accepted. This will not be rejected. And I will also say not to be in the 15%, work to be in the 85% to publish your paper in the particular journal. So thank you so much.